First, we answered the question, why did Braska touch the sphere? The video became an instant classic with over 200 views and counting. Then we answered the less popular question, why did Oaka touch the sphere, which nobody wanted to see, reminding us why this never should have become a series in the first place. And now, for the thrilling conclusion to this epic trilogy, centered on people touching something, we will finally answer the ultimate touch-related question. Why did Zidane touch Dagger's butt?
What is wrong with you? Why are we even discussing this?
It's just that I kept thinking about it after we said that we weren't going to do it, and I started to feel like there might be a story there.
You kept thinking about Dagger's butt and the story behind it?
No, just about why Zidane touched it and what it says about him as a character.
And why did he touch it? Can we just keep this short?
Of course, we could. Or we could take the opportunity to do a somewhat detailed analysis of Zidane's character and his relationship with Dagger.
Oh lord.
So, for the purpose of this discussion, we are going to assume that you are already familiar with Zidane and Dagger since you clicked on the video. At least it's beyond me why anybody would click on a video about butt touching without being fully familiar with the characters and the overarching themes of the fictional world that they inhabit.
Well, it is a bit clickbaity, but by all means, blow us away.
Well, maybe it's best to just start by playing the scene in question. As we can see, Sedan, the guy with the monkey tail, clearly touches Dagger's butt, Dagger being the undercover princess in the orange jumpsuit. This seems to be a positive experience for him, but Dagger understandably reacts rather negatively.
And what's the great mystery here?
I guess the biggest question is whether Sedan did it on purpose or not.
I always thought it was an accident. I guess I'm just so innocent. Like a flower.
He at least plays it off as an accident later, telling Dagger that he didn't do it on purpose.
And you think he's lying?
Well, it's at least worth exploring. Looking at this scene realistically, it at least seems rather implausible that Zidane didn't know what he was doing. After all, he is this nimble thief character, meaning that he should be more aware of his surroundings and his hands.
And I guess he also has a motive to touch her butt, since it's no secret that he's into the princess, Zidane being a known womanizer that has been actively pursuing the princess ever since he first laid eyes on her, maybe even since he saw Senan's doll version of her.
Yeah, and it's actually a bit refreshing to see him pursue Dagger in such a straightforward manner, especially since Cloud from Final Fantasy VII seems rather indifferent to romantic entanglements, even when girls are practically throwing themselves at him. And in the case of Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, he stays rather passive for most of the game, even though he ultimately ends up with Rinoa.
So all of these characters engage differently with romantic interests, or romance in general.
Yeah, in Japanese such modes of engagements are sometimes referred to as soushoku-kei, nikushoku-kei, roru-kabetsu, and asparamaki-kei, meaning herbivore, meat-eater, rolled cabbage, and asparagus roll. And using this schema, I would put Cloud in the herbivore bracket, since he shows little interest in finding a girlfriend. Squall could be a roru-kabetsu, which is actually often thought of as being the most popular one, and means that you have the appearance of a herbivore, but that you are actually a meat-eater on the inside, just like a piece of meat rolled up in a piece of cabbage.
And where would Zidane fit into all of this?
I think Zidane would either be a full-blown meat-eater or an asparagus roll, since he obviously pursues women very openly. If he was an asparagus roll, however, it would mean that he was the opposite of Squall, a meat-eater on the outside but actually a herbivore on the inside.
And that's it for today's lesson on Japanese language and culture. But how does this serve the question at hand?
So, as a meat-eater, Zidane has probable cause to aggressively go after Dagger, and secondly, like I already mentioned, the accidental touching might be a bit suspicious since it's uncharacteristically clumsy for a thief of his caliber.
Well, since we were in the subject of Japan, it's quite a common trope in Japanese media for a guy to accidentally fall into a girl in a sexually provocative manner.
Yeah, that's a very plausible connection. Final Fantasy IX being a Japanese game and all, but if we aren't ready to consign ourselves to thinking of this incident as a somewhat diluted anime trope, the question becomes whether it would actually be more uncharacteristic for Zidane to be clumsy like that, or for him to actually lie and violate Dagger in this way on purpose.
Well, I don't think it's a common occurrence, but we do have examples of Sedan lying or being untruthful, or at least an example. For instance, he frames Amaranth by lying about him having just stolen something valuable from the auction house in Trino when they first met.
But isn't that limited to what he's doing at the time, being dishonest in order to pull off a successful heist?
Well, wouldn't lying about why he touched Dagger's butt also enable him to touch it successfully without having to pay for his crime?
That's true, but I think one important distinction that has to be made is not necessarily what he's lying about or why, but also who he's lying to.
And why would he lie to the gods but not to Dagger, if it means getting what he wants?
Well, according to Kant's categorical imperative, lying is always wrong, no matter who you are lying to, since it violates a universal principle, wherein an action should only be taken if it could become a universal law, permitting everyone to perform the same action. So lying is wrong because you wouldn't want to live in a world where everyone was lying all the time. Another reason why lying is always wrong, according to Kant, is that it presupposes that the person that is lying doesn't respect the intrinsic value of those that the person is lying to, since the liars are willing to use them as tools in order to further their own goals, much like Zidane does with the gods, not respecting their will to God or whatnot. So the question becomes, is Zidane's character and his relationship with Dagger of such a nature that he would be ready to use Dagger as a tool to fuel his own butt-touching ambition, or in other words, to objectify her by touching her butt without her consent?
That's a lot of words to say something very simple, I think. But I guess that Zidane seems to genuinely care for the princess, not only helping her in order to get her gratitude or to earn her affection, but rather because he just wants to help her achieve her own goals.
Yeah, and this ties in nicely, I think, with Zidane's title card, and probably his most famous line in the game, "You don't need a reason to help people."
So are we saying that we want to give Zidane the benefit of the doubt on account of him being a virtuous character in most other aspects?
This might just be us defending our original interpretation, but I do believe that on further investigation, Zidane has earned it.
He's earned touching Dagger's butt.
Oh, that would be a horrible way to end the video. No, I'm saying that his actions in the game seem to merit us interpreting his actions charitably. Most likely meaning that we can take his word for it when he says he didn't do it on purpose. And even if he did do it on purpose, we have reasons to believe that his intent was not to actually violate Dagger, since he seems to respect her and her own desires, her intrinsic value, to put it more formally. Therefore, even as a purposeful act, we could interpret it as a misguided attempt at communication that thankfully isn't repeated again in the game, further casting Zidane as the lecherous caricature that you often see in manga or anime.
So we could have just said it was an accident.
Sure, but where's the fun in that?
Thank you for watching this weird video.
What?
If you liked the video,
Please consider subscribing to the channel.
you can hit the bell icon.
There are a lot of bells in Final Fantasy IX.
Yes, you can leave us a comment. Tell us if you liked the wild ride.
And what you like to touch? No.
I guess. Let's not do one of these again.
No.
Let's do a bird sound. People love those.